Months passed since the dramatic events over SciFi-Prime. Life on the ocean world returned to its calm rhythm. Children laughed along the shores. Market stalls buzzed with activity, and the shimmering lights of the monument of the Silent Promise glowed softly under twin moons. Yet the memory of the Terran fleet lingered. People spoke of it in hushed tones, a story of courage and loyalty that felt larger than life. The Sarallans had seen many civilizations rise and fall, but never had they witnessed a force that acted solely out of trust and care, without expectation of reward. Ral 10 stayed to study the aftermath. His records filled with observations, he realized that the Terran intervention had not only saved lives, but had changed the way the galaxy viewed humanity. Far beyond SciFi-Prime, in a hidden corner of space, Earth remained quiet. Its people lived their normal lives unaware of the immense attention they had drawn across the stars. Yet somewhere, in secure orbital stations and ancient monitoring arrays, human watch teams observed the galaxies. They maintained a promise made centuries ago. When a friend was in need, Earth would respond. Always. Ral 10 was not yet fully aware of the extent. Lynn Adebayo explained gently one evening as they walked along the glowing coral paths of Sarala's central city. Humanity does not act for recognition, she said. We act because someone's life is worth our effort. A promise is not measured in time or reward. It is measured in truth. Ral 10 nodded slowly. And the galaxy? Does it understand? Lynn's eyes glimmered. Not yet. Some will never understand, but they will remember. That is enough. The Sarallan Council convened once more, this time not in fear but in gratitude. Leaders from neighboring systems attended, intrigued by reports of the humans' actions. They wanted to understand this strange species, one that had stepped in to save lives, repaid centuries-old loyalty, and vanished without leaving any claim behind. High Speaker Enalara addressed the assembly. Observe them, study their ways, but most importantly, remember the lesson. True strength lies not in dominance nor in power, but in the courage to keep promises. Humanity shows us this truth. Ral 10 watched the crowd absorb the message. He realized that this single act of loyalty had already begun to ripple through countless worlds. Some systems sent aid more willingly to neighbors. Some councils emphasized trust over political gain. And somewhere in hidden corners of the galaxy, civilizations that had once doubted their neighbors began to reconsider. The Terran fleet's quiet intervention had sown seeds that would grow far beyond any single battle. One evening, Ral 10 received a personal communication from Lynn. The signal was brief but carried weight. We have completed our observation. The galaxy now knows what it means to be remembered. You may record this for history. Ral 10 smiled, a rare feeling of satisfaction spreading through him. Yes, he whispered. They will remember. In orbit above SciFi-Prime, Lynn and Ral 10 watched as the monument of the Silent Promise shimmered under the light of the moons. The inscriptions glowed faintly, carved deep into stone and coral. To those who stood for us when none else would. Humanity, the stars remember your kindness. For a moment, silence filled the observation deck. Then Lynn spoke softly, her tone carrying both pride and quiet humility. Every promise we honor strengthens the galaxy, not just the person we help. And every life we protect becomes part of the story of loyalty. Ral 10 reflected on this. He had studied countless civilizations, analyzed their wars, politics, and alliances, but none had operated in such a pure, deliberate, and enduring way. Humans did not fight for glory. They did not act for gain. They acted because loyalty was not optional. It was woven into their very being. Weeks turned into months, and Ral 10 documented more than history. He recorded lessons in philosophy, governance, and ethics. Inspired by what he had witnessed, he discovered that humans believed loyalty could reshape the galaxy without the need for domination. On SciFi-Prime, children often gathered near the monument to hear stories of the humans. Teachers spoke of courage and friendship, of promises that spanned centuries, and of actions that had astonished the galaxy. One young Sarallan, staring at the inscriptions, asked his teacher, "Do humans always keep their promises?" The teacher smiled. "Yes. If they give their word, you may be certain they will honor it, even if the galaxy forgets," the children whispered among themselves.
Even after hundreds of years?
Even then, the teacher replied, and perhaps that is the lesson we must carry forever. Meanwhile, the Galactic Union received RAL 10's full report. Scholars, leaders, and historians studied it for months. Many were astonished at the unexpected power of human loyalty. Some feared it, unsure how to respond to a civilization that acted on principle rather than politics. Others were inspired, proposing alliances and protections modeled after Earth's philosophy. RAL 10 smiled quietly. Humanity did not seek to be feared. They only sought to honor their promises. The story of SciFi became a symbol. Across the galaxy, it was said, when Earth's people promise loyalty, they repay it in ways that can stun the stars. And indeed, the galaxy watched, slowly learning a new lesson, that the quiet power of keeping a promise could be more influential than any weapon. Years later, long after RAL 10 had returned to his homeworld, he received a final transmission from Lynn Adebayo. It was brief, like a message tucked into the folds of space. The Saralans thrive. The galaxy remembers. Humanity keeps its word. He read it again and again, feeling a sense of peace that he had never experienced before. There was no pride in the message, no boastfulness, only truth. The stars themselves seemed to shimmer in response. Silent witnesses to a people who had never abandoned a friend, who had repaid loyalty across centuries, and who had left a legacy that would endure long after they had vanished from view. In the final scene, aboard a quiet Terran observation station hidden in the outer rim of Sol System, Ambassador Lynn Adebayo stood alone, her gaze stretched across the void, toward countless worlds that she had helped protect indirectly. A soft smile played across her lips. She spoke not to anyone in particular, but as if the galaxy itself could hear. Some promises take centuries to fulfill. Some lives take generations to repay, but when you do, the stars remember. And those who stand with us will never walk alone. She turned to the small console before her. A glowing beacon blinked softly, one of many hidden signals, each one a record of humanity's loyalty. Somewhere out there, the galaxy would see it, and perhaps one day understand it. But for now, she allowed herself to simply watch the stars and listen to the quiet rhythm of the universe. Because humanity had done what they had always done. They had remembered. They had acted, and they had repaid loyalty in a way that no one could ever forget. The stars themselves seemed to nod in agreement, reflecting a single truth. Earth's people value loyalty, and when they repay it, the galaxy is stunned. The sky of Arthan Prime was painted with fire. The once beautiful world, filled with silver forests and glowing blue rivers, now trembled under the sound of explosions. The Valorians, a gentle and wise species known for their music and art, stood helpless as the sky burned above them. The enemy, the Crack's dominion, had returned. Their massive warships darkened the sun, and their metallic voices echoed across the atmosphere. Submit or be erased. For years, the Valorians had tried to make peace. They had offered trade, culture, and friendship. But the Cracks were a race that believed only in strength. They destroyed cities and took resources, leaving the Valorians on the edge of extinction. Now, in the capital city of Valatheron, the last defenders gathered around the shining tower of the council. Among them was Alarin Voss, a young Valorian scientist with bright silver eyes and trembling hands. He looked toward the horizon where the enemy fleet glowed red. "There's no one left to call," he said softly. "No one will come." The council leader, old and calm, lowered his head. "Then we face the end with honor." But just as the words left his lips, the deep silence of the sky was broken. A strange signal appeared on the scanners. Not Cracks, not Valorian. A small fleet of ships was entering the system. The ships were old, rough-looking, and patched with strange markings. Their engines glowed with blue light. A voice came through the static. Human, warm, and determined. "This is Captain Mara Holt of the Terran Union Expeditionary Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold your line, Valorians. Help is on the way." Alarin stared at the message in disbelief. "Humans?" he whispered. "But they're from the outer worlds. They have their own wars. Why would they come here?" No one had an answer. Yet, within hours, the sky was filled with light. Not fire this time, but hope. The humans arrived with only 9 ships facing an enemy armada of hundreds. Their vessels were smaller, older, and scarred by previous battles. But what the humans lacked in power, they made up for in unity and courage. The human flagship, TSV Resolute, moved to intercept the Cracks formation. On its bridge, Captain Holt stood before the viewing screen. She was tall, calm, and sharp-eyed. Her crew worked silently, each motion precise. "Enemy numbers are overwhelming, Captain," said her second officer, a young man named Daniel Reese. "We can't win this battle." Holt smiled faintly. "Then we won't fight to win. We'll fight to protect." The humans didn't come for glory. They came because someone needed them. That was enough. They split their small fleet into pairs, covering Valorian evacuation routes, destroying enemy drones and guiding refugees to safety. They sent no demands, no conditions. Their only message to the Valorians was simple: stay behind us. For 2 days and nights, the humans held the line. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, using clever maneuvers that confused the Cracks fleet. When one ship was damaged, another took its place. When ammunition ran low, human engineers improvised new weapons from mining equipment and energy cells. Ilaran watched from the ground through the Valorian scanners. He saw human ships diving into danger again and again. They didn't retreat. They didn't hesitate. One Valorian officer beside him whispered, "Why do they fight so hard? This isn't their world." Ilaran didn't answer, but his heart burned with respect. The Cracks commander sent a broadcast across all frequencies. "Humans, leave this world." "It is not yours to defend," Captain Holt replied, her voice steady and strong. "It wasn't ours to lose either, but it belongs to those who believe in loyalty, so it belongs to us all." On the 3rd day, the humans' main ship, the Resolute, took a direct hit. The explosion lit up the sky like a dying star. For a moment, the Valorians fell silent, their hope shattered. But then, out of the fire, smaller escape ships emerged, still fighting. The crew of the Resolute had survived and refused to surrender. They regrouped and led a final counterattack, guiding the remaining Valorian defense fleet into a precise formation. Together, humans and Valorians launched a coordinated strike, humans targeting enemy command ships, while Valorians disabled power cores using their advanced energy technology. The alliance worked perfectly, like 2 halves of one mind. By the time the 4th sunrise came, the Cracks fleet withdrew. The sky cleared. The battle was over. Arthan Prime still stood. When the smoke faded, the Valorian people filled the streets, singing old songs of hope. The humans landed among them, tired, wounded, but smiling. Captain Holt stepped forward, removing her cracked helmet as Ilaran approached. "You saved us," Ilaran said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We had nothing to offer you. No trade, no reward. Why did you come?" Holt looked around at the silver towers, the rivers, the children cheering in the streets. Then she said quietly, "Because someone once helped us when we were small and desperate. Because loyalty should never die. Because it's the right thing to do." The Valorian Council wanted to give the humans gold, crystals, technology, but the humans refused. They only asked for food, fuel, and time to repair their ships. Before leaving, they left behind small gifts, a few books, a carved flagstone bearing the Terran emblem, and a promise. Captain Holt's final words before departure were broadcast to all of Arthan Prime. "Someday you'll see others in need. When that day comes, remember us. Do for them what we did for you." Ilaran stood on the cliffs as the human ships rose into the sky, leaving trails of blue light. His heart felt both heavy and full. He realized then that humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or technology. It was something far greater, their loyalty. They had come from light years away, fought for strangers, and left without asking for anything. The Valorians would never forget. They carved the names of the human ships into the walls of their city: Resolute, Dawnlight, Perseverance, Hope. Generations later, children of Arthan Prime would point to those names and ask, "Who were they?" And the elders would smile and reply, "They were humans, and their loyalty is eternal." 50 years had passed since the humans saved Arthan Prime. The war was long over. The skies were clear again. The rivers glowed blue and the silver forests had returned. The Valorians had rebuilt their cities, stronger and brighter than before. But they had never forgotten the visitors who came from the stars to defend them when all hope was gone. Every year, on the anniversary of the battle for Arthan Prime, the Valorians lit the lights of gratitude, tall crystal lamps that glowed across the capital. Children placed flowers around the ancient memorials that carried the names of the human ships: Resolute, Dawnlight, Perseverance, Hope. And every song that night ended with the same words: friends help friends. Among those who remembered most was Alarin Voss, now older, his silver eyes calm with wisdom. He had become a respected scientist and advisor to the Valorian Council. He often stood at the great window of the observatory, staring at the stars, wondering where the humans had gone. He still remembered Captain Mara Holt's voice, steady, brave, filled with warmth. Her words lived in his memory like a quiet flame. Someday you'll see others in need. When that day comes, remember us. But no human ship had returned. For decades, the skies remained silent. The Valorian scientists had tried to contact the Terran Union, sending countless messages across the void. Most went unanswered. A few reached empty space. Some believed the humans had moved deeper into unexplored regions, or perhaps fallen into another war. Others whispered that humanity had vanished entirely, their colonies lost to time and distance. Still, the Valorians kept their faith. Gratitude, they believed, was not a moment. It was a way of living. One quiet night, Alarin sat with a group of young apprentices under the starlight dome. They were eager and curious, their faces glowing under the blue lights. "Teacher," asked one of them, a young Valorian girl named Sira, "why do we still honor the humans?" "It's been 50 years. They never came back." Alarin smiled gently. "Because loyalty is not about waiting for someone to return," he said. "It is about remembering what they stood for. The humans taught us that courage and kindness can travel farther than any ship. But what if they are gone?" Another asked softly. Alarin looked up at the stars. "Then their spirit lives in us, and that means they are never truly gone." The young Valorians listened silently, their hearts touched. For them, humans were not just warriors. They were a symbol, a story of hope that refused to fade. As the years turned into decades, the galaxy around Arthan Prime changed. The Crack's dominion, once defeated, began to rise again under a new warlord. Their armies grew in hidden systems, fueled by vengeance. New alliances formed, some peaceful, some dangerous. The Council of Galactic Worlds, a coalition meant to maintain order, became more focused on politics and power than justice. The Valorians tried to stay neutral, choosing peace over conflict. But peace is fragile when others hunger for control. Slowly, the Valorians began to feel the shadow of fear again. Small border stations were attacked by unknown raiders. Communication beacons disappeared. The Council offered no help. One night, as the Valorian Council gathered to discuss the growing danger, Alarin spoke firmly. "We must prepare. The storm is returning." Councillor Lurea, a young leader with bright wings of crystal blue, frowned. "But we have no allies strong enough. No one will stand beside us this time." Alarin's gaze was steady. There was once a species that did, and if they live, they will not forget. The council fell silent. Everyone knew he spoke of humans. Years continued to pass. Alarin grew old. His hair turned silver white and his voice grew soft. But his eyes still carried light, the same faith he had held since that first day the humans arrived. He spent his final years building a great observatory in the mountains. Not for war, but for remembrance. Inside, he placed the Terran emblem, carved from the same stone Captain Holt had given them long ago. Underneath it, a single message was engraved. They came not for reward, but for friendship. May we do the same. Before his final rest, Alarin recorded a message for the future Valorian generations. If ever the darkness returns, look to the stars and call for help. If humans live, they will come. If they do not, then become what they once were. Be loyal, be brave, be human in heart. When Alarin passed away, the Valorians mourned him deeply. They said his soul joined the stars to search for their lost friends. A century later, a young Valorian named Terran Voss, descendant of Alarin, became chief navigator of the Valorian defense fleet. The galaxy had become more dangerous than ever. Pirate bands, old cracks warlords, and cold alliances made space unsafe for peaceful worlds. One evening, while studying star maps in the observatory his ancestor built, Terran found something unusual, a faint signal repeating from a distant system on the edge of the void. It was weak, almost lost in cosmic noise, but the pattern was familiar. It was human. Terran's heart raced. He ran to the council chamber, breathless. "Elders, I've found something." "It's a Terran code, one we've not seen for generations." The council members leaned forward in shock. "Are you certain?" "Yes," Terran replied. "It's faint, but it's there. The humans, they might still exist." Excitement filled Prime. Scientists worked day and night to trace the signal. For weeks the planet buzzed with energy. Every radio tower, every satellite, every deep space relay turned toward the void. But then, silence. The signal stopped. Many lost hope, believing it was just an echo from the past, a ghost of ancient transmissions drifting through space. But Terran refused to give up. He replayed the message hundreds of times, analyzing every frequency, every bit of static. Finally, he discovered something the others missed, a faint pattern in the background noise. It was not random. It was a sequence of numbers, 4795. Those numbers matched the coordinates of an ancient human route, the outer rim passage used by explorers long ago. Terran smiled. "They're out there," he whispered. "And they're calling us." Terran presented his findings to the council again. Some elders were doubtful. "It has been too long," they said. "Even if humans exist, they may not be the same." The galaxy changes. But Terran's eyes burned with the same fire Ilaran once had. "Our ancestors believed in them when no one else did. They saved our world without asking anything in return. If they sent this signal, even a whisper, we must answer." After long debate, the council agreed. The Valorians would send a small expedition, not a warship, but a messenger vessel, to follow the coordinates and search for the Terran descendants. The ship was named Friend's Promise, in honor of the humans' old words. On the day of launch, thousands gathered to watch. The silver ship rose through the sky, its wings glowing with soft light. As it disappeared into the stars, the people of Prime whispered prayers, not of fear, but of hope. Terran stood at the command deck, looking out at the endless dark. Somewhere out there, he believed, the children of Earth were waiting, maybe scattered, maybe struggling, but still holding that same spark of loyalty that had once saved his world. He placed his hand on the Terran emblem engraved on the console and smiled softly. "Captain Holt," he said quietly, as if speaking to a ghost, "your friends never forgot. We are coming." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, the stars stretched into streams of light. The galaxy watched in silence. Somewhere far beyond, in a forgotten corner of space, a faint human signal pulsed once more, growing stronger, as if answering the call. And thus began a new chapter in the bond between humans and Valorians. A bond born of gratitude, tested by time, but never broken. The stars were calm above Prime, but a shadow had begun to creep across the outer systems. For decades, the galaxy had been at relative peace. The cracks Dominion once feared had become distant rumors in trade routes and old war stories. But now, reports trickled in from border worlds. Fleets of unknown ships, larger and faster than anything the Valorians had seen before, were moving quietly, striking only isolated colonies. They left no messages, only fear and disappearance. Terran Voss, now older and the commander of Prime's defense fleet, received the latest transmissions in the observatory. His silver eyes narrowed. The timing and patterns were too deliberate to be random. The darkness that the Valorians had once escaped was returning. "We must prepare," Terran told the council. "These are not random raids. They are coordinated. Someone is building an army." Councillor Lurea leaned forward, her expression worried. "We have few allies now. Our fleets are small, and our neighbors focus only on their own survival. If this threat grows," Terran interrupted softly but firmly, "then we will not face it alone." The council looked at him, puzzled. "Alone? Who else can help?" "The humans have vanished. No fleet answers our calls." Terran's eyes sparkled with determination. "Perhaps not all humans. Perhaps some still live, and they remember us." The thought of humans, the same species that had once saved Prime against impossible odds, was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because their loyalty had always been eternal, terrifying because they had been silent for a century. What if they no longer existed? As the council debated, a faint signal appeared on the long-range scanners. At first, it was almost too weak to detect, a pulse that repeated every few seconds, hidden within the background of cosmic noise. Terran leaned closer. His heart raced as the pattern became clear. It was a human signature. He called the council together immediately. "This is not random static," he said. "It's a Terran signal. Someone is out there waiting, or calling." A hush fell over the chamber. Many Valorians had never even seen a human ship. Most had only heard stories passed down through generations. Yet now the stories were coming alive again. Within hours, Terran assembled a small expedition. The ship Friend's Promise was ready to launch. Its hull gleamed under the morning sun, its engines humming with energy. Young Valorians joined the crew, eager to witness history. Before departure, Terran stood at the launch pad, looking at the stars. "We will find them," he said quietly, almost as if speaking to the humans themselves. "We will show that gratitude never dies. We will show that friendship is stronger than fear." As the ship rose through the sky and disappeared into the void, the people of Prime whispered prayers, for safety, for hope, and for the friends they had not seen for 100 years. Meanwhile, far beyond known space, the Terran remnant navigated an uncharted system. Their ships were fewer than ever, a remnant of what had once been a proud fleet. But their spirit was intact. Each crew member carried the same courage, the same determination that had once led them to Prime. Captain Elias Trent, a descendant of Captain Holt, stood on the bridge of TSV Vigilant, staring at the distant glow of a star cluster. The human fleet had heard the faint Valorian call, and they had come, following the coordinates left in an ancient record. "It is them," Elias said softly. Prime, the world we saved, still remembers." His crew, though weary from centuries of exploration and survival, felt a surge of pride. The humans had left their mark on countless worlds, but Prime had honored them in a way no other planet had. That loyalty had reached across time and space, calling them home. The Terran ships approached cautiously. Sensors picked up an unknown fleet ahead, smaller but organized. Terran's Friend's Promise had followed the signal into the system. And now the two fleets, human and Valorian, saw each other for the first time in 100 years. Elias raised his hand to speak to his fleet. "We go as friends," he said. "Our goal is simple, to meet them and offer help as our ancestors once did." When the two crews communicated for the first time, the Valorians could barely believe their eyes. The humans looked much as their stories had described, tall, steady, and calm, yet filled with warmth and courage. Terran's voice trembled with emotion over the comlink. "I never thought I would see you again. We called and you came." Elias smiled faintly. "We never forget. Your ancestors stood with our people when no one else would. It is time we return the favor." But their reunion was interrupted. Scouts from the Outer Rim reported massive movements in nearby systems. A shadow fleet, larger than the old Crack's armada, faster and silent, was advancing toward Prime. The enemy was not just returning. They were stronger than before. The Valorians were unsettled. The humans were determined. And together, they realized the galaxy would witness something extraordinary. A coalition born of loyalty, courage, and unbroken gratitude. "We have little time," Elias said. "We need to act before they reach your homeworld. Prepare your fleet." Terran's crew and Valorian ships worked side by side with human engineers. Old strategies and new technology combined, creating a defense that no single species could have imagined. For the first time in generations, the Valorians saw humans not as legends but as living symbols of hope. As they traveled toward the approaching threat, humans and Valorians shared stories of the past century. The humans told of worlds they had explored, colonies they had helped, and the countless battles they had faced. The Valorians shared how they had preserved human memory, songs, monuments, books, keeping their heroes alive across generations. "I never imagined our actions would reach this far," Elias said softly. "It seems loyalty is stronger than even we knew." Terran nodded. "It is, and gratitude can guide those who follow." Even 100 years later, the crews laughed together, shared meals in the small mess halls of the ships, and watched the stars pass by. A silent promise that friendship endures no matter the distance or time. Soon, the enemy fleet became visible, black ships that moved like shadows against the light of distant suns. Their formation was massive, calculated, and dangerous, but the humans did not flinch. Elias turned to Terran. "We will face them together," he said, just as our ancestors did. Terran clenched his hands, feeling the same courage that Ellerin had carried decades ago. "Then let us show them that gratitude is not weakness. It is power." The combined fleet of humans and Valorians moved into position. Sensors were checked, formations adjusted, and every crew member readied themselves for what was to come. For the first time in a century, the shadow of the past met the light of loyalty, and as the first encounter began, both humans and Valorians realized one truth. The bond forged by honor, courage, and gratitude could change the fate of worlds. The darkness over the edge of HFY's system grew heavier with each passing hour. The Shadow Fleet loomed closer, their black ships cutting through the starlight like sharp knives. They moved with precision, silent and deadly, yet unaware that their target was not alone. Humanity's descendants and the Valorians stood together, a combined force small in number but mighty in spirit. On the bridge of TSV Vigilant, Captain Elias Trent studied the approaching fleet. His hands rested lightly on the console. "They underestimate us," he said calmly, "and that is where we will find our strength." Terran Voss, on Friend's Promise, nodded beside him. "They do not know loyalty," he said quietly. "They do not know gratitude. That is why they cannot understand what we can do together." The first engagement began with stealth. Human and Valorian ships scattered into the asteroid belt nearby, hiding among massive rocks and ice. The enemy ships moved confidently, expecting no resistance. "Stealth mode active," reported the Valorian navigator, Sira Lyran, her antennae twitching with focus. "We are shadows among shadows," Elias smiled. "Perfect. Let's remind them what courage looks like." Small human fighter crafts darted through the shadows, striking the enemy's outer ships with bursts of energy. The Valorian ships followed, sending pulses that disabled enemy engines temporarily, giving the humans openings for targeted attacks. Each strike was precise, coordinated, and daring. From the control decks, both humans and Valorians could feel the flow of action like a living thing, a rhythm of attacks and retreats, of risk and reward. "This is not just a battle," Terran said, his eyes reflecting the flashes of energy from the screens. "It is a story of friendship, of loyalty, of what it means to honor those who helped you when no one else would." Hours passed and the enemy fleet began to falter. They had expected chaos and fear, not courage and precision. The humans moved with tactics that seemed impossible. Smaller ships weaving through larger vessels, using gravitational pulls from nearby moons to gain speed and surprise. The Valorians brought their own strength. Their energy fields could redirect attacks, and their knowledge of cosmic currents allowed the ships to move like dancers across space. Together, the humans and Valorians created a web of strategy the enemy could not predict. "Captain Trent," reported human engineer Mira Solis, "we can push forward and hit their command vessel, but it will be risky." "We could take heavy damage," Elias considered. "We've faced risk before. But this is bigger than us. This is for HFY, for loyalty, for every world they have ever saved. We take the risk." Terran, on Friend's Promise, agreed. "We will follow you, together." The combined fleet surged forward, weaving through enemy lines like a single living entity. Energy beams danced across space, not as destruction, but as precision strikes, a message of determination rather than hate. Human fighter crafts leapt ahead to distract the enemy, drawing them away from the Valorian capital. Sira Lyran, piloting a Valorian ship alongside human pilots, marveled. "Their courage? It is more than skill. It is belief. They fight for loyalty, not power. That is why we cannot fail." Elias's voice echoed over the communication network. "Remember, every move we make is for them. For the ones who once helped when no one else would. Our gratitude is our weapon." For the first time in generations, the Valorians felt the full force of what humanity could teach them. Loyalty and gratitude were not just emotions. They were actions, and those actions could shape the outcome of the universe. The enemy commander, realizing their ships were being outmaneuvered, sent a broadcast. "Surrender, humans and Valorians." "You cannot win," Elias's voice replied, steady and calm. "We fight not to conquer, but to protect. And loyalty is stronger than your fear." The word spread across the fleet. The humans' courage inspired the Valorians. The Valorians' unity gave the humans focus. Together they became a force neither the enemy nor the galaxy had seen before. Using the gravitational pull of a nearby gas giant, the human and Valorian ships created a coordinated sweep. Smaller ships led the enemy into a trap, not to destroy, but to disable, redirecting their engines and scattering their formations. The Shadow Fleet, for all its size and precision, was now in chaos. During the battle, Terran noticed a group of young Valorian cadets trapped near the enemy's edge. Without hesitation, he called for a rescue mission. "Elias, we need cover," Terran shouted. Elias nodded. "Cover is on its way. All fighters, move now. This is not just a battle. This is our promise." Human and Valorian ships raced together, weaving through enemy fire. The cadets were rescued with minimal damage, and the combined fleet celebrated with small cheers over the comms. It was a moment of triumph, born not from destruction but from courage, planning, and loyalty. As the battle continued, a daring plan emerged. The enemy command ship remained strong, but the humans identified a weak point: the core systems that coordinated the fleet's movements. Elias led a small strike team in a series of maneuvers that seemed impossible. Using the gravitational currents of nearby asteroids and the Valorians' energy pulse technology, they bypassed the enemy shields and struck at the heart of the command ship. The enemy's formation faltered instantly. Smaller ships lost direction, engines misfired, and the Shadow Fleet began retreating. Terran and Syrah watched from Friend's Promise, feeling the relief spread across the crew. The combined courage of humans and Valorians had turned what seemed like certain defeat into a monumental victory. When the enemy retreated into the darkness, silence returned to the stars. The humans and Valorians floated among the wreckage, tending to their own, repairing ships and offering comfort to the frightened. Elias turned to Terran. "We did not fight for revenge," he said softly. "We fought because someone believed in you, and that belief matters. Loyalty matters. Gratitude matters." Terran nodded, smiling. "They once saved us when we were just a peaceful world with no strength to defend ourselves. Today we honor that promise." Across the fleet, messages went out. Valorian children watching from homeworld screens cheered as they saw the combined human-Valorian fleet victorious. They had learned that loyalty and gratitude were not just words. They were actions that could change the fate of worlds. As the fleets prepared to return to Arthan Prime, the humans shared a simple message. "To the people of Arthan Prime," Elias broadcasted, "your ancestors showed us the meaning of loyalty. Today we show that we have not forgotten. May all who fight for what is right know that gratitude can light the darkest path." The Valorians celebrated, but they also knew the lesson was deeper. Courage and loyalty were not just weapons. They were a way of life, a choice made in every action, in every decision for generations yet to come. For the humans, the victory was quiet but meaningful. They did not stay to claim reward or fame. They repaired their ships, shared stories with their Valorian friends, and prepared to move on. Their goal had never been glory. It had always been loyalty, friendship, and keeping the promise of the past alive. That night, Terran stood on the cliffs of Arthan Prime, looking at the stars. "The humans have left again," he whispered, "but their spirit remains. They came when we called. They fought with courage beyond measure. They taught us that loyalty and gratitude are more powerful than any weapon." The Valorians lit the lights of gratitude once more. The lamps glowed across the city, reflecting in the silver rivers. Children sang the songs of humans who had come from distant stars, and elders smiled, remembering the lessons passed down through generations, somewhere far beyond the stars. Captain Elias Trent and the Terran remnant sailed silently into the unknown. They left a trail of hope behind them, a promise that loyalty is eternal and gratitude can shift the fate of worlds.